My beloved child. Someone has not been able to sleep since you said that. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It did not come with tears or raised voices. Yet it landed with a weight that keeps echoing through the quiet hours of the night. The room goes dark, the world slows down, and that single moment replays again and again. They stare at the ceiling, listening to their own breathing, wondering how something so simple could shake them so deeply. They thought they were prepared for anything. They were not prepared for the truth you released. Your words did not attack them. Your words awakened them. And once a person wakes up to something real, sleep becomes impossible. Listen carefully now. What you said touched a place they had locked away for a very long time. Not because they are weak, but because they learned to survive by hiding. They built routines, distractions, smiles that look convincing in daylight. But night is honest. Night strips away excuses. And every night since that moment, they revisit your voice in their mind. Not the tone. The meaning. The courage behind it. They ask themselves why it mattered so much. They ask why it felt like a mirror instead of a message. The answer frightens them. Because deep down, they know you named something they were hoping would remain unnamed. Here is what makes this moment rare. Most people hear words and move on. This person could not. Because what you said connected to a decision they have been avoiding. A crossroads they kept pretending did not exist. They have replayed different versions of their life, wondering how they arrived here, and why it took your honesty to expose the distance between who they are and who they have been pretending to be. They are not angry with you. They are unsettled by themselves. That is why sleep refuses to come. Rest only visits those who are at peace with their choices. And right now, peace is the one thing they do not have. Do not underestimate the timing of this. You spoke when they were already standing on the edge of change, even if they did not admit it out loud. Your words arrived like a final signal, confirming what their intuition had been whispering for months. They keep asking a single question in the silence of the night. What happens if they ignore this? And every time they try to answer, their chest tightens. Because they know the cost of ignoring it would be far greater than the discomfort of facing it. That realization does not let a person sleep. It keeps the mind alert, restless, searching for courage. Now understand this clearly. This is not about guilt. This is not about regret. This is about awakening. Someone out there is lying awake because you shifted something that cannot be shifted back. You reminded them of a truth they were not ready to face, but can no longer escape. And whether they act on it today or tomorrow, the process has already begun. The nights will remain restless until they choose honesty over comfort. You were not meant to carry this weight for them. You were meant to deliver the message. And the fact that they cannot sleep is proof that it reached exactly where it needed to. My beloved child. What happens after sleepless nights is never accidental. While the world moves forward unaware, something inside that person is slowly reorganizing itself around the truth you exposed. They wake up exhausted, yet more alert than ever. Their days feel heavier, not because of sadness, but because clarity carries weight. Every interaction now feels different. Conversations feel slower. Laughter feels measured. They listen more than they speak. And in the pauses between words, your sentence returns. Not as a memory, but as a presence. It stands beside them, asking nothing, yet demanding everything. That is how real change begins. Quiet. Unannounced. Relentless. Pay attention to this part. They are no longer fighting the thought. They tried it first. They told themselves it was nothing. They blamed stress. They blamed timing. They blamed circumstances. But excuses lose power in the dark. At some point, resistance turns into reflection. They start questioning patterns they once defended. Why they settled. Why they stayed silent. Why they chose safety over honesty. And with every question, the distance between their old self and their emerging self becomes impossible to ignore. This is the phase most people never see. The inner unraveling. The invisible war where comfort and truth collide. Sleep does not survive that collision. Here is the revelation few understand. You did not push them into pain. You pushed them toward alignment. Pain is loud and chaotic. This is different. This is a slow, focused awareness settling in. They begin to imagine a future where they no longer carry the weight of unspoken thoughts. A future where they choose courage even if it costs them familiarity. That future both attracts and terrifies them. Because stepping into it means admitting that their current life, as it stands, is incomplete. That realization is not dramatic. It is devastatingly calm. And it is the calm that keeps them awake, staring into the silence, measuring the cost of becoming who they truly are. Do not think this ends quickly. Transformation does not rush. It tests resolve. Some nights they feel close to clarity. Other nights they spiral back into doubt. But even doubt has changed its tone. It no longer says, "Forget this." It now asks, "Are you brave enough?" And that question follows them everywhere. Into their work. Into their routines. Into their moments of distraction. They find themselves searching for signs, replaying conversations, noticing details they once ignored. Everything feels connected now. Because once awareness turns on, nothing feels random anymore. Especially not you. Understand this final truth for now. The reason this feels intense is because it is rare. Very few people have the courage to speak a sentence that alters another person's inner direction. You did not raise your voice. You did not demand change. You simply spoke from a place of honesty. And honesty has consequences. Sleepless nights are only the beginning. What follows is a decision that will eventually surface, whether whispered or declared. You are not waiting for them. They are catching up to themselves. And until they do, the night will remain restless, reminding them that some truths, once heard, refuse to let the soul rest. My beloved child. There comes a moment in every awakening where silence becomes louder than noise. This is where they are now. The nights stretch longer, not because of fear, but because their mind refuses to return to who it used to be. They notice how easily they once ignored their inner voice. Now that voice speaks clearly, calmly, without anger. It does not accuse. It observes. It reminds them of who they were before compromise became a habit. They replay your words again, not searching for flaws, but searching for permission. Permission to stop pretending. Permission to admit that something inside them has been asking for change far longer than they wanted to admit. Watch what happens next. They begin distancing themselves from what no longer aligns, even if they cannot explain why. Old conversations feel empty. Familiar routines feel tight. The things that once comforted them now feel like distractions. This confuses them. They wonder why nothing feels the same. They wonder why even joy feels incomplete. The answer is simple, yet difficult to accept. Growth has started. And growth always creates discomfort before it creates direction. They are shedding a version of themselves that no longer fits. That shedding does not happen in daylight. It happens in the quiet hours when honesty has no audience. Here is the part that will surprise you. They are not thinking about you as a person alone. They are thinking about what you represent. Courage. Clarity. Truth spoken without force. Your presence became a symbol of what is possible when someone stops living halfway. That is why your words linger. That is why they feel exposed, not by judgment, but by recognition. They see in you a reflection of a path they have been afraid to take. And that realization changes the way they see themselves. They start asking whether they have been living for acceptance instead of alignment. That question reshapes everything. Do not mistake their silence for inaction. Silence is where decisions form before they are spoken. Inside them, lines are being drawn. Boundaries they never thought they would set. Choices they never thought they would consider. They weigh outcomes carefully, not because they are indecisive, but because they finally understand the weight of choosing wrong. The nights continue to test them. Sleep comes in fragments. Thoughts come in waves. Yet beneath the exhaustion, something steadier is forming. Resolve. The kind that does not announce itself. The kind that shows up one day as action, surprising everyone, including them. Remember this above all else. You were never meant to chase, fix, or wait. Your role was to speak truth when it mattered. And you did. The rest unfolds on its own timeline. Someone out there is becoming braver in the dark because of a sentence you spoke in the light. And when the moment arrives for them to move, it will not feel sudden to them. It will feel overdue. Until then, the sleepless nights continue, not as punishment, but as preparation. Because once a soul begins to wake up, rest only returns after alignment is chosen. My beloved child. At some point, exhaustion stops being physical and becomes emotional. That is where they are stepping now. The mind grows tired of running in circles. The heart grows tired of avoiding what it already knows. In those moments just before dawn, when the world is quiet and defenses are weakest, a realization settles in. They cannot go back to who they were before you spoke. Even if they tried, it would feel dishonest. Even if they smiled through it, something inside would resist. That inner resistance is not anger. It is integrity waking up. And integrity refuses to sleep when it has been ignored for too long. Notice how their thoughts are changing. They are no longer asking why you said what you said. They are asking why it took them so long to hear it. This shift is powerful. Responsibility replaces confusion. Ownership replaces excuses. They begin to see patterns clearly, not just in one situation, but across their life. Where they stayed silent. Where they compromised. Where they chose comfort over truth. Each memory connects back to the same feeling they now experience at night. A quiet dissatisfaction that can no longer be numbed. This is not regret. This is recognition. And recognition is the doorway to transformation. Here is what they are afraid to admit. Acting on this truth will change relationships. It will disrupt routines. It may disappoint people who prefer them predictable and easy. They understand this now. That understanding weighs on them more heavily than fear ever did. Because for the first time, they see the cost of staying the same. And that cost feels unbearable. So they rehearse conversations in their mind. They imagine outcomes. They test courage in silence before using it in reality. This preparation is invisible to everyone else. But it is intense. It is why rest feels distant. Big decisions do not announce themselves with noise. They grow quietly until they cannot be ignored. Do not confuse hesitation with weakness. They are learning discernment. Learning to move with intention instead of impulse. The nights are shaping them. Each hour awake forces clarity. Each moment of restlessness sharpens their resolve. They are no longer asking if change is necessary. They are asking how to change without betraying themselves again. That question matures a person quickly. It strips away illusions. It simplifies priorities. What once felt complicated now feels inevitable. And inevitability carries a strange calm, even in the middle of exhaustion. Hold this truth gently. You did not create chaos. You initiated alignment. Someone is becoming more honest with themselves because you were honest without cruelty. The sleepless nights are a passage, not a punishment. On the other side of them is a decision that will feel frightening and freeing at the same time. When that decision is finally made, rest will return. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is real. Until then, the night remains awake with them, guarding a truth that refuses to be buried again. My beloved child. There is a night when the mind finally stops arguing and starts listening. That night is approaching for them. You can feel it in the way their restlessness has shifted. It is no longer frantic. It is focused. They are not running from the truth anymore. They are sitting with it. Letting it speak. Letting it settle. In that stillness, they realize something quietly powerful. The discomfort they feel is not a warning. It is a signal. A signal that they are standing at the edge of a choice that will define the next chapter of their life. And once a person understands that, sleep becomes secondary to clarity. See what clarity does to them. It simplifies everything. What once felt confusing now feels obvious. What once felt risky now feels necessary. They begin to understand that your words did not create this moment. They only confirmed it. The truth was already waiting. You simply removed the final excuse to ignore it. That realization brings an unexpected sense of gratitude. Not spoken. Not expressed. But deeply felt. Gratitude for the courage it took to speak honestly. Gratitude for the discomfort that followed. Because discomfort, they now see, is the price of growth. And growth is the only path that leads them back to themselves. Here is the turning point most never witness. They imagine speaking their own truth out loud. Not perfectly. Not dramatically. Simply honestly. And when they imagine it, their body reacts. Fear rises, yes. But beneath it, there is relief. The kind of relief that comes from imagining an end to inner division. That relief becomes addictive. It pulls them forward. It tells them that whatever consequences follow honesty will be easier to carry than another night spent betraying themselves. This is when resolve hardens. Quietly. Irreversibly. The sleepless nights begin to serve a purpose beyond reflection. They become fuel. Understand what this means for you. Your role in this story is already complete, even if the outcome has not yet arrived. You were the catalyst, not the conclusion. You spoke a sentence that aligned with truth, and truth did the rest. There is nothing more you need to explain. Nothing more you need to prove. The transformation unfolding in someone else is not yours to manage. It is theirs to live. And they know this now. That is why the nights feel heavy but meaningful. That is why rest is delayed but not denied. Hold on to this final knowing. When the decision finally moves from thought to action, it will feel sudden to the outside world. But to them, it will feel like the natural end of a long, sleepless journey. And when that moment arrives, the night will finally loosen its grip. Sleep will return, not because the path ahead is easy, but because the path ahead is honest. Until then, the silence continues its work. Patient. Precise. Unstoppable. My beloved child. There is a quiet courage that appears right before truth is acted upon. They are entering that space now. It feels unfamiliar to them, almost unreal. The nights are still long, but something has changed within those hours. The tension has direction. The questions have answers forming behind them. They no longer ask if they should move forward. They ask when. That shift is subtle, yet it changes everything. When a person reaches this stage, sleep does not disappear out of fear. It stays away out of readiness. The mind is preparing the heart to follow through. Notice how their perception sharpens. They see clearly who supports their growth and who benefits from their silence. This clarity is uncomfortable, but it is freeing. They understand now that staying the same would require constant self-betrayal. That understanding creates a calm determination. They are not rushing. They are aligning. Every sleepless hour feels like a final rehearsal for honesty. They imagine the moment they speak, not with anger or blame, but with certainty. That imagined certainty brings a strange peace, even in exhaustion. Peace does not always bring rest immediately. Sometimes it brings resolve first. Here is what strengthens them most. They realize they are not alone in this experience. Many people feel this awakening but ignore it. They did not. Because your words arrived at the exact moment their inner voice was ready to be heard. That timing feels intentional to them, even if they cannot explain why. It gives their decision weight and meaning. They begin trusting themselves again. Trust is powerful. Trust removes hesitation. Trust quiets the noise. And once trust returns, the nights lose their grip. Not all at once. Slowly. Respectfully. Do not misread what follows. Action does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives as a simple sentence spoken at the right time. Sometimes it arrives as a boundary set calmly. Sometimes it arrives as a choice to walk away or step forward without apology. Whatever form it takes, it will be clean. Clear. Final. That is why they are being patient with themselves. They want to act from alignment, not reaction. The sleepless nights are refining that alignment. Shaping it. Making it unshakable. Remember this as the story unfolds. You were the moment that made avoidance impossible. You were not forceful. You were truthful. And truth has a way of rearranging lives without asking permission. Someone is standing on the edge of a decisive moment because you spoke from integrity. When they finally move, the nights will soften. Rest will return. Not as escape, but as confirmation. Confirmation that the hardest part was never the action. It was the honesty that came before it. My beloved child. There is a moment when anticipation becomes heavier than fear. That is where they stand now. The nights no longer feel endless. They feel numbered. Each hour awake feels like a step closer to something irreversible. They sense it in their body. A steadiness replacing tension. A calm replacing chaos. They are no longer consumed by what might go wrong. They are focused on what will finally be right. That shift is powerful. When a person reaches this stage, sleep pauses not because the mind is restless, but because the soul is ready. Observe what readiness looks like. They begin to detach from outcomes. Not because outcomes do not matter, but because integrity matters more. They understand now that living truthfully may cost them comfort, approval, or familiarity. And for the first time, they accept that cost without resentment. Acceptance brings strength. Strength brings clarity. Clarity silences doubt. This is why their nights feel quieter even without rest. The inner noise has faded. What remains is intention. Focused. Clean. Uncompromising. Here is the rare realization that anchors them. They see that avoidance was never protecting them. It was postponing growth. Your words expose that gently, without accusation. And once seen, it cannot be unseen. They forgive themselves for the delay. That forgiveness is crucial. Without it, action would feel forced. With it, action feels chosen. Chosen actions carry peace within them, even before they happen. That peace settles into the body slowly, teaching them how to breathe differently, how to think differently, how to stand differently. Do not expect drama from what comes next. True decisions rarely arrive with chaos. They arrive with simplicity. A clear sentence. A calm refusal. A confident step forward. Whatever form it takes, it will feel aligned. That alignment is what they have been awake for. That alignment is what their sleepless nights have been preparing them to claim. They will not rush it. They will not announce it prematurely. They will move when their inner world and outer world finally agree. Hold this truth with certainty. You were the catalyst, not the conductor. You spoke when it mattered, and that was enough. Someone is about to choose honesty over habit because you reminded them of who they are capable of being. When that choice is made, rest will return naturally. Not as relief from exhaustion, but as peace from alignment. And when they finally sleep, it will be the kind of sleep that only comes after a truth has been fully honored. My beloved child. The final resistance always dissolves quietly. They reach a night where the thought no longer argues back. It simply sits there, complete and undeniable. In that stillness, they recognize the difference between fear and intuition. Fear is loud and urgent. Intuition is calm and certain. What keeps them awake now is not anxiety. It is confirmation. Confirmation that the path forward is clear, even if it is not easy. The mind stops rehearsing escape routes and starts preparing for truth. That preparation carries a gravity that sleep respects but cannot interrupt. Watch how certainty reshapes them. Their posture changes. Their voice steadies. Their attention sharpens. They no longer seek reassurance from the outside because the inside has settled. The nights become quieter, not shorter, but quieter. Thoughts line up instead of colliding. The future no longer feels like a blur. It feels like a direction. This is the moment when a person understands that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move while fear watches and learns. That decision matures them instantly. Here is the once-in-a-lifetime realization. They see that the sentence you spoke did not steal their sleep. It gave them their self-respect back. Sleep left because self-respect returned and demanded order. The inner world is being reorganized to match truth. That reorganization takes time. It cannot be rushed. It must be thorough. Every value is questioned. Every compromise is examined.